Big power on your ETM RTR. TruMoto update, double-digit power. Let's talk about it. If you've been following the mod loadout for the RTR platform, you know about TruMoto, and what TruMoto is our proprietary controller and software suite that we provide for electric moto, and now we need to bring it to the RTR. But what's the holdup? Well, basically, TruMoto is going through a new design phase to bring you another iteration, the Cricket 2.0, which is an improved version of the original Cricket, and Littlebit version 3, which is the improved version from Littlebit version 2. And we'll get into the details of each one of these and figure out what's new, what's exciting, and what you can expect. If you've been looking on the website, you know that the original kit listed is for the Cricket. However, we've been working hard on the Littlebit V3, and what we're going to do is offer this as the first stage of upgrade. This is going to get you up to 11 kilowatts. It's a much improved design over the version 2, and it has cooler running performance, higher amps, and more features than ever before. This controller is your best budget double-digit power maker that the RTR platform is going to have. In order to be transparent as possible, we want to give you all the information about what's going to come out so you can make the best decision for what you're going to do to your RTR. So with that being said, we weren't originally going to release this for the RTR, but with the improvements that we've made to it, we found that it's more than adequate. In fact, it's badass. So we're going to be putting this as an option as you're more budget oriented, but still it's going to provide insane performance. The Littlebit V3 is going to work with the high torque, which wasn't originally planned, and the high speed motors, which are from the same family of motor. You're going to get 11 plus kilowatts out of that, and obviously the high torque and high speed motors are going to have different characteristics, but both are going to work, and you're going to get insane power in comparison to your stock controller, and especially in the torque department. Even on both motors, you're going to see way more torque because we have more phase amps with this. Now, we'll get into the software later, but let's jump into what's going to go on with the Cricket. And to complement the Littlebit V3, we have the noisy Cricket. This one, I'm sure you probably know about. If you don't, this is the creme de la creme. This is the big dog. This is 14 plus kilowatt, almost 20 horsepower for your RTR. But why haven't we come out with it yet? If this one was first, how come Littlebit is now encroaching on that? What's taking so long? Well, Littlebit works really good with the original motors, the mod motors, high speed and high torque. It also works great with the Cricket, but the Cricket was overpowering these motors, and that just wasn't good enough for us. We want you to have the absolute maximum power that you can, and we want you to be able to run that bike as hard and as long as you want. And in order to do that, we had to develop an even bigger motor. So now we have a bigger motor, so let's check that out. That's gonna go perfectly with this. They all work together, but this is matched with this big motor, and we call that motor the Revolver. Ignore the dusty bike. They get ridden in order to get tested, and it doesn't make sense to clean them every day. So this bike has the Revolver motor in it right now. As you can see, it's a much larger motor, and the reason we call it the Revolver is because it has like this revolver cylinder of a revolver gun type shape to it. It's much larger in diameter, and it's taking up all the available space in the swing arm. It uses the highest grade possible materials, thin laminations, high temperature windings and magnets, and is running the same shaft. This motor is going to be running a 420 sprocket. I know that's something that you guys have all been waiting for, and this is the answer to that question. If you want big power, you're going to need a big chain. In order to do that, we need to change the RPM that the motor operates most efficiently at, so that way we can run a different gear ratio and get the same or better results. So there's double necessity to create this motor, not only to handle the power, but also to accommodate that 420 chain. So recap, big motor, big controller, big power, 420 chain, that's the noisy Cricket combo. Both of them are TruMoto. Both have software that works on Android and Apple, full adjustability, torque, speed, power, throttle aggression, deadband, all the important things. And one of the major updates to the TruMoto software is individual mode customization. That means 3 different profiles for each mode that's completely different and separate than the others. So you have full adjustability on each mode. That's a huge improvement on the TruMoto software that we're really looking forward to, that will release with the 2.0 and the Littlebit version 3. That leads me to my last talking point, which is how these things are going to mount into your bike. The Cricket and the Littlebit differ a little bit. Right now we have a Cricket mounted in this bike, and we're going to show you how that works out and the reasoning behind how it's all going to work. So let's dig into it. When you pop the seat off, you're gonna see that the noisy Cricket is actually now in the rear subframe. Originally the controller's in the front, now the controller's in the back. Technically, I believe this is a better setup when it comes to performance, and especially on the track and in the air, because you're pushing more of the weight back, probably gonna have a bigger, heavier battery that's more in the front. So we're pushing more of that weight distribution backwards, and it's gonna give you a better bike feeling. And what we're gonna do in the front is this plate will take place of your original stock controller, and on the back of this, you can put your DC-DC converter and your toolkit bag bag on here. So if you have that headlight kit, it's just gonna move to the front. This is gonna sit in the front of your bike like so, and then you'll be able to mount everything that you already have, just rearranged. Double recap. This plate right here is gonna cover up the hole from your existing controller. This controller is gonna go in the back. You're gonna get 14 kilowatts. You're gonna get a big old fat motor, and what you're gonna need is a big battery in order to power this said giant controller and giant motor. Now on to a little bit, version 3, 11 kilowatts for your RTR at a budget price, working with both the mod, high torque, and high speed motors. This thing is gonna be sick. And the cool thing about this one is that it stays in the front. You keep your headlight kit where it always was, and then you get this very similar plate that this mounts onto, and that goes in the front of your bike. You maintain the stock controller location, you save a little bit of money, you still get double-digit power, and you get access to the TruMoto app with all the features that I talked about before. You might have noticed that this is a 3D printed case and that this is looking not quite finished. This is not quite finished, that is correct, but it's heading into production right now, and the same thing goes for the Revolver motor on the other bike that I showed you. That's a working prototype, and it's heading into production right now. Time frames on this stuff, hard to say. We're looking at probably at least over a month before you guys see TruMoto purchasable and shippable. I know it's been longer than anticipated, so I do apologize for that, but I can assure you that it is well worth the wait because we're delivering a polished product that's reliable and is gonna blow your socks off. So with that being said, let's show you how the little bit is installed so you can see the difference between that and the noisy cricket setup. So as you can see, there's no controller back here. This is just empty. I assume many of you have your headlight kit where the DC-DC and your tool bag goes back here. And in the instance of the little bit version 3 with the RTR, you would retain that. Then you'd put the controller up in the front, which looks a little bit like this. You can see that it fits up nice and cozy in there and keeps all your stock connections in the same place. So this is like the closest to OEM fitment that there is. And since the little bit is so much lighter than the Cricket, it's not a huge problem for weight either. In fact, I think this controller is about the same weight as the stock one, and all is well in terms of weight distribution. Let's not forget, you're gonna need a big ass battery to get big ass power. So we have 35 and 45 amp hour options on the website, mod and touring respectively. You're gonna need those in order to utilize the true power of TruMoto, whether it be with the little bit or the Cricket. Again, you can expect these things to come in the next 4 to 8 weeks, depending on which model it is. We're right now at the end of the production phase, so things are on their way to us. Things are looking really good. You can expect to see those things as soon as possible. Make sure you get your mod battery, make sure you get your TruMoto, because I cannot express just how insane these two setups are. So that's all I got for this video, and until next time, Electro out.